Namaskar, this is Tilak Datta. In this session, which follows the first five parts of my series, I will detail my conclusions in two parts. So, this particular session is the first part, which deals with a narrower aspect which defines much of what I have presented so far. About 6 months ago, I had mentioned explicitly on certain core issues, I stood on a different footing from the stand taken by Anuj Dhar, authors Anuj Dhar, Chandrachud Ghosh, and also that taken by the followers of the Netaji in Gyanganj category of Bhagwanji's followers. By now, I think it should be apparent to many viewers mm, what are these differences. So I will just dwell upon some of them. The approach taken by Anuj Chandrachud, I would say, representing Mission Netaji, has been the basic alphabet, that of logical rigor and rationality. But their stand has been that the paranormal aspect or dimension is diluting or contorting the narrative from 1945 to 1985. So I can quote from their book, Conundrum. They say that the first option, that Bhagwanji became a tantric in his quest for India's good, is too fantastic to warrant any discussion. On page 727 of the same book, they quote Dr. Brahma's opinion, who concedes the possibility that spirituality can do miracles but is difficult to prove scientifically. But this is followed on page 734 of the same book. They, that means the followers of Bhagwanji, believed that he could perform miracles such as going out of the body, which science does not accept. Now, I have dealt with each of these aspects in my 5-part series so far, including the possible impact of PTSD or post traumatic stress disorder, and even severe torture, as also the way death manifests for such spiritual souls. I have examined many options in the manner of could have been, ho sakta hai, this, and this, all have been options. But my own approach and choice has been made amply clear both in my book as well as in this series, especially the last session. So I will repeat the hypothesis where I ended last time, which also forms the fulcrum of my book, which is I can dwell it again. The original Bhagwanji or Subhash Chandra Bose, with all the inner knowledge of his past associations with followers such as Leela Roy or Pavitra Mohan Roy, armed by his phenomenal tantric energies, was always in control of the situation and always present, driving things as a master. For his mission, Bhagwanji would not take the slightest chance, not with Pavitra Mohan Roy, nor Dr. Mishra, nor anybody else. Therefore, the doubles and all the stories to divert people. I also said that the government of India knew about this aspect but hid the fact that the real Netaji, Bhagwanji, Mahakal, had certainly been there all along in complete control of the situation. This was my conclusion. Now, Anuj and Chandrachud have examined all the available evidence and used the logical route to explain the inconsistencies in Bhagwanji's actions or utterances or letters in terms of, for example, PTSD. But I have shown that there are other potent and compelling explanations for every one of these inconsistencies which should be considered. All these can be accounted for either by way of the way the paranormal dimension works, or by actions committed by a double or doubles. I repeat with utmost emphasis, there is no either or, between the logical route and the so-called supernatural dimensions. These dimensions overlap, and there are constant bleed-throughs from the paranormal into our world of the senses. There is no scope for debate. It is all at the level of experience. So normally one would be exasperated and throw our arms up and say, why on earth are we discussing ghosts, bhoot pret, astral forms, black magic, doubles, paranormal stuff, disembodied souls, and so on? Try telling this to a court of law. They will show you the door and dismiss the case as inadmissible, or we'll have to give them the straight facts. The problem is, Bhagwanji's case is not, I repeat, not the same as that of Lal Bahadur Shastri or Shama Prasad Mukherjee's case. It is unique by any standards in the world. The real problem lies in how to assimilate the huge paranormal dimension to him, all the experiences which have been observed even up to 2019 involving Bhagwanji. Please note this again. This is the crux of the matter. As it stands, I believe the narrative is incomplete and hollow without the paranormal dimension, which was merged at all times with Bhagwanji's temporal life. At all times. This could very well have been the real or central reason why he never emerged, and not due to any external compulsion or fear or apprehension about any PTSD syndrome. At the same time, the authors, that is Anuj and Chandrachud, have honestly confessed that they have no real idea or expertise about the paranormal, supernatural, etc. And I quote, we have no competence to go into spiritual matters, much less judge them. This is what they say. But in the same book, they also say it is possible that Bhagwanji's spiritual practices helped him overcome the problem, that is, of PTSD. Now, my question is how? Could overcoming PTSD by spiritual practices be proved by the logical route? This is an inference. If this possibility can be considered, why not the other possibilities? And yet, the authors have rejected the whole paranormal aspect lock, stock, and barrel. Why? Because the courts don't accept it. Well, it's not necessary that these authors should acquire in-depth expert competence about the supernatural. But then why this celebration of your ignorance by stating the tantric dimension does not even warrant a discussion when it is practically the central aspect? I feel that such a stand is totally unnecessary in the light of the overall painstaking proofs which these authors have offered in their standout works to establish their main point, which is Bhagwanji was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Well, your point is well proven. On the other hand, I can see the issue. Many of the proponents of the supernatural in India, at the street level, are charlatans. Bengal abounds with tantrics who openly take fees to find a missing husband or to get your sweetheart back on your lap. Plenty of first-hand experiences or examples are there which have been told to me. So, opening this issue to any paranormal talk in general can muddy waters. Both Anuj and Chandrachud have told me time and again that it is the Santan Dal followers who attack them all the time, who keep up this Netaji is there in Gyanganj narrative. This is their main issue. So while I support the fact-based approach which Mission Netaji has made its driving force, the basic alphabet, that is, it is not an issue of either or. The dilemma is there. I mean, I've said it again earlier that which court of law will accept that Vivekananda, Sri Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda saw the whole world going around when Thakur touched him with a finger, and this triggered a whole chain of events which are still, impacting the world around. At the same time, denying the tantric and other dimensions when they work in unseen ways on the temporal vital plane is to throw out the baby with the bathwater, to deny the very core to this unique entity we have known as Bhagwanji. This is the issue which forms the basis of the conflict between my protagonist Leela and her brother Bharat Biswas in my book. So now we talked about court verdicts. There are thousands of court verdicts which are flawed without truth. Mission Netaji has resolved to stay with the only court acceptable approach. Fine. But then, this is not the pursuit of the complete truth, the core to Bhagwanji that exists independent of any court acceptable setting, the evidence based approach is not a substitute for the absolute truth. I say firsthand that all such supernatural or paranormal phenomena exist and they are merged with our daily reality. For the last 6 decades or more, many parts of the world, including communist Russia, scientists have been working overtime to crack or at least understand what are these paranormal phenomena. These are no longer, banned topics for serious scientists, though in general the establishment remains opposed to such phenomena. Both the FBI and the KGB have for decades always consulted ESP gifted people to get normally inaccessible information through supersensory channels which defy logic. This, despite the fact that none of these methods are acceptable in court. Authors Anuj Dhar and Chandrachud Ghosh see this as a long festering mystery which needs to be cracked and accepted by courts and the political class. Yet, please observe, despite all the proofs painstakingly collected by them and made public, to this day, despite the basic popularity the issue has taken because of the efforts, Anuj Thar is tagged as a conspiracy theorist by major popular media searches. This is after 20 years of effort. Bhagwanji remains Gumnami Baba. See the events this year, 2021, built around the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. It is the official versions which are reiterated and the same old faces propagating either the plane crash or killed in Russia theories, not the Bhagwanji option. Neither Anuj nor Chandrachud are invited to be a part of these events, neither as staged by the state government or the central government. Without taking away an iota from their persistent efforts, this is the bitter truth because the odds are so steep to take the Bhagwanji case forward. The conundrum remains where it is. How does one crack this? This is the issue. For me, speaking for myself, the central logjam is how to assimilate the paranormal dimension for Bhagwanji. I personally feel from experience, while sticking with the logical or rational route, it is essential to train the self to observe silence and develop real awareness. This makes you, the person who does this, capable of receiving or observing or receiving sanket, signals from the beyond, from these other realms, as they bleed into our world of causation of the senses. This guides the person who does this in a temporal mission and with the certainty of incisive truth. And this is the way to a real breakthrough. There remain, as the authors have said, there remain many unresolved knots which confound these authors. I think it is only when one is willing to delve into focused self awareness that sudden and persistent hints will manifest with blinding clarity in your consciousness. Like, for example, whom to approach to gain traction to crack the case, where the real leads to the mystery might lie. Most unexpected information will definitely come your way. The most basic of meditations of stilling the mind with 100% sincerity are needed because this is where all the prismatic action takes place. But to pass judgment without even trying, this doesn't pass muster. At some point, the persons who go through this process or try, you will become aware that the matter is proceeding towards a resolution on its own pace, timeline, and inner order, which may not match yours or our impatience, but where every single ceaseless effort made for Subhash Bose's cause is contributing actively to the entire unfolding. You have to keep pegging away. This has been my experience and therefore belief. That is the way it has worked for my book. And this is the reason why I make no claims that how come it has proved to be so prophetic. But sitting back and waiting for this to happen from some Gyanganj, as many have done so far, is, I think, criminal. Your efforts count 100%. My quest has been to find a way where it is not either or, where the conclusions of the rational mind are a vital step to the next dimension, which is the paranormal dimension, which is unraveling over time. This is the theme which plays through my book. So, in closing, for this section, I'll quote Sri Aurobindo again, and I'll read this. Even if I foresee an adverse result, I must work for the one which I consider appropriate, because this keeps alive the life force. This is the principle of truth which I serve and gives it, that is this principle, the possibility to triumph thereafter, and it becomes a part of the working of future foreseeable fate. Future favorable fate. Even if the fate of the hour is adverse, men do not abandon a cause because they have seen it all or foreseen its failure and are therefore right in their spiritual stubbornness. So, here are two people and their team who have been stubborn over all these years. Go for it, stick with it, but I tell you, open your minds. This is the way the breakthroughs will come. This is the way to align. Okay, from here I go to a different promised section, which is when I began this series, I had promised a word on Mission Netaji, especially Anuj and Chandrachud, whom I have known for almost 14 years now. In fact, I came to know about a certain Gumnami Baba only because of Anuj's first book, and I have written this in my book, and that my foremost gratitude is to them. Now, Mission Netaji's charter, what does it say? They say they want to clear the cobwebs from an issue which has been Subhash Bose's issue, which has been consigned to the dungeon, to demand all information from the government, and to settle the question of Subhash Bose's fate once and for all. For him to be given his due in our history as the man who really liberated India. Furthermore, they wanted to make all the information about Subhash Chandra Bose freely available to the public. To that end, they have collected already existing privy information from Bhagwanji's Kolkata-based followers by prior permission, or have accessed many undisclosed facts by hard-fought wins in RTI cases. Their target audience, I believe, would be the educated class who reads in English, Hindi, Bengali, etc., many of whom had practically forgotten the real saga of Subhash Chandra Bose. Now, many of these court-certified documents which have helped to take this issue forward, this is Bhagwanji's angle, came from Bhagwanji's Kolkata-based followers, who have fought for this issue for decades, often at great personal sacrifice and hardships. So they passed a significant portion of these documents to Mission Netaji, who have acknowledged the same in their works. But I believe it is also important to acknowledge the fact that these authors made it count. They really made it count from a virtually unknown topic among the reading public in urban India today. Due to their unrelenting campaign and focus, many more people know and are concerned with this subject than ever before. They have written their works with logical rigor and with pinpointed focus in an engaging manner, and therefore they deserve their success given their journalistic and academic backgrounds. They have used the social media such as Facebook, Twitter in the most effective manner. One can certainly differ with some of the conclusions like I do, but to deny this contribution, this core contribution, is unfair. I think at no point did they profess undying allegiance to Bhagwanji or to all the ideals of Subhash Chandra Bose. All I can say is the Kolkata-based followers never had any unstated mutual agreement with the Mission Netaji on their core beliefs, which is namely that Netaji never married or that Bhagwanji never died in 1985. Therefore, I wonder, why did these followers share any court testified files with Anuj and Chandrachud if such beliefs were meant to be a deal breaker? I mention this because today these followers feel that their trust in Anuj and Chandrachud has been betrayed. They have fallen apart. On the other hand, these followers from Kolkata actually interacted with the original composite Bhagwanji entity. Real or decoys doesn't matter. They were directly impacted by the radiance of the person across the curtain. They developed unshakable faith. Anuj and Chandrachud made their study from a distance after a gap of almost 20 years. So, in following logical rigor based on available evidence, they have proposed this PTSD angle. And I quote, these disturbing signs, that is, of PTSD, could not be detected by those around and close to Bhagwanji because they treated him like a godlike figure. And at the end, they conclude the adverse signs of PTSD remained invisible to them. At other places, the authors have remarked that Bhagwanji was literally playing games with his followers. Now, to say that the Faizabad and Kolkata based followers were all deluded regarding Bhagwanji's behavior, or to presume that he had PTSD and not one of the followers realized this, or that Bhagwanji was playing games with them and they never knew, I think is belittling their intelligence. This is simply anuman or inference, much like Dr. Madhusudan Pal, who has argued that Stalin looked after Subhash Bose very well in Russia and that he was never tortured. This also is anuman. Such followers, the followers I am mentioning, are including many sharp and alert minds such as Leela Roy, Sukrit, Sunil Krishnagupta, that is, Pavitra Mohan Roy, apart from Santosh Bhattacharya, Bijoy Nag. So, to me, this presumption is unacceptable. I think that this is one of the issues which is said about this gap, this chasm between Bhagwanji's Kolkata-based followers and these authors. It's really unfortunate. Please note that at one stage, Leela Roy herself had doubted whether Bhagwanji was Subhash Chandra Bose, and that the man across the curtain could have been a plant or a fake. She tested him over time. So how can we know if any of these followers, that is, had ever developed any doubts or questions about Bhagwanji's behavior at some point? This is a dynamic internal process. It's not privy to judgment after decades. We can never know what happened in their minds. In fact, I'll quote this on page 279 of the book Oi Mahamanavashe. The author Charan even regrets that they, that is the followers of Bhagwanji, did not follow up on many hints given by Bhagwanji due to the doubt in their mind that they lost out because of idle and futile discussions, only to find years later that what Bhagwanji had said had worked out in real life. So, there was no blind faith in a godlike figure, at least not at any rate for all the followers. This is not acceptable. This takes me to a linked topic of Gyanganj. Do I tick the Netaji living in Gyanganj story that he's alive in the same body after 123 years? I have touched upon this briefly earlier, but as I understand it, Gyanganj is an entire zone in the astral realm, which therefore need not be fixed in space as we understand the word space. Entities who dwell in such astral realms sometimes decide to emerge into the terrestrial plane, into our world of the senses, and they withdraw into the astral realm once again. So, this emerging into our world physically is said to be happening in some particular region in the Himalayas known as Gyanganj. Some accounts, especially those by Paramahansa Yogananda ji, even speak of an astral pathway directly from Benares to the Himalayas. So I'll make a small diversion about the Babaji industry because somehow all this is mixed up. Ever since Autobiography of a Yogi came out, Babaji exploded all over the world. You have had Rajinikanth make a film where he is shown to meet him. Every fourth teacher in Germany, in Europe, claims to be some follower or has seen Babaji or has met some follower or has seen him in a dream or has met him in a cave. This has become a huge industry. He's practically everywhere, commercialized beyond words. And somewhere this Babaji, Gyanganj, this whole narrative is mixed up and has proliferated accordingly. Therefore, there are several videos on YouTube by all kinds of people, including current ascetics who talk about Netaji and Gyanganj. If you examine some of these videos, you will find that these people can't even get their facts about Netaji's life straight. When they recount the stories of Netaji's past, there are innumerable mistakes. They all claim that they have some kind of a hotline to Bhagwanji and Gyanganj, and so they keep on issuing bulletins that he's alive, he's in sadhana, he's about to return. The date of the return keeps changing as per convenience, quite like today's astrologers. Now, on this note, I will refer you to Mahakal's quote. He says, "A true tantric will never declare himself to be one. Never. They are extremely secretive. And yet, we have these self declared tantrics pushing this Ganganj hotline story. I have never seen Sri Bijay Nag doing such propaganda about Ganganj, nor the late Surajit Dasgupta, nor R.P. Mishra, who never spoke anyway, not even Dr. Madhusudan Pal. I don't see them issuing calls, he is coming, he is coming. Today, just look, today there's no action plan, no manifesto to take Bhagwanji's ideals forward. Instead, what these videos and articles says, he is in Gyanganj or in Paris, he will soon return and he will save India. Now, are these people holding franchises for Bhagwanji, just waiting for his long-awaited reappearance like the return of Christ? To me, it appears like a spun narrative meant for a certain audience whose curiosity is aroused, but whose karmic action is absolutely rendered inert because they think, why bother? Netaji will return and he'll set everything right while we sit and talk. My book and my viewpoint, as I've emphasized again and again, stands diametrically opposite to such an attitude. I will close out my conclusions in the next session with a broader perspective which flows from my book, including embracing issues which are impacting us all. I might also add a few words about my experience in Faizabad. Before I close today, I just want to mention that my book has been re-released. This same book. The contents are the same. A couple of typos have been corrected. There are 2 additional maps. One additional map, I'm sorry, which is about the locations where the action takes place. There is a character guide. There is a new description of the book, and there are 2 important reviews which are encapsulated at the back, one by the famous David Godwin and one by Major General Panjikar. The book, I haven't received my own copy in Germany yet, but it's available everywhere. It's the same book, basically, except these new changes have been incorporated. So, till next time, thank you for your patience. I will close out this entire series in the next session. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.